All right, Greg, cool it, man. You had your chance.
Hey, man, I'm sorry, dude. I don't know how. Or, hey, man, I don't know how to cool it, man.
That's right, man. You're ruined, baby. You punk kid.
I'm just trying to do what I do and being free, man.
Like, it's a radical time, man. You're like a radical.
Hey, man, just hail to the chief, man.
That's right.
Don't
So,
be a baby.
yeah. And if you all haven't figured it out, which you probably haven't, we're talking about Prez, the first teen president of the United States.
Yes, 18-year-olds vote. Prez for president.
Written and drawn by Joe Simon and Jerry Grandenetti, longtime collaborators. Of course, you might have heard of Joe Simon before.
Joe Simon, what has he done?
I don't know. He worked with some guy that we talked about on the OMAC podcast. You might have heard of him, Jack Kirby.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and we brought up Joe Simon and Jack Kirby as well on our episode about the Blue Beetle, because Joe Simon and Jack Kirby's studio drew things for the other king of comics, as you'll recall from that episode.
That's correct.
And Joe Simon and Jack Kirby were both innovators in the comic book industry. And I guess I didn't know as much about Joe Simon's career post the Golden Age and even early in the Silver Age. But I guess it makes sense that Joe Simon in 1972, 73 would come over and do some work for DC Comics.
It totally makes sense.
Since Jack Kirby came to do some work for DC Comics.
Got to get the band back together, man.
So, of course, let them know what Joe Simon actually co-created with Jack Kirby. The most famous thing.
The most famous thing?
The Boy Commandos?
Boy Command. Yeah. The Millionaire Club? Was it Millionaire Club? I'm going to mess that up.
No, that was the Green Team was later. That wasn't with Jack Kirby.
Okay, sorry.
You did get it right, though. You messed it up, and you got it wrong.
Yes.
No, like Joe Simon, we're not going to get too much into Joe Simon because we're going to freestyle on these books because they're more topical to now than focusing on the creators this time, because it is the same two creators for the 4 issues we're going to cover. However, it is important to point out that Joe Simon co-created Captain America with Jack Kirby, and they had their own studio in the Golden Age. And in fact, they were so sought after that DC actually just bought them from Timely Comics, which was the precursor to Marvel Comics.
Snatched them right up. Here's all this money. Bags of money. Come with us.
And it literally was bags of money for them. And DC put them on some projects. Things didn't really work out. They ended up doing a lot of war books and Boy Commandos and weird stuff like that. And then Jack Kirby went back over and worked with some guy named Stan Lee.
Stanley? Like Stanley Steamers?
Like Stanley Steamers.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, Stanley and Steamfort, the restaurant over in Tacoma?
No, Stanley Steamers, like the carpet people.
Carpet cleaner. Yeah, the carpet. They got a catchy jingle.
I think they both do. Stanley and Seafort's, are they even in business?
I don't know. I think currently right now they're kind of shut down.
Oh yeah, that's
topical.
Fair. Yeah, topical. Well, anyway, not focusing on that. So
no.
A lot of work here. We're not going to focus on Joe Simon's career today. We've talked about it before, but also we'll have another episode where we focus on a little bit more Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, like we did a little bit in the Blue Beetle episode. And we'll go back and do a little bit more of that. However, today we are focused on 4 issues of Prez. From the cover date is September 1973.
1973, a great year.
Is there some reason that people might have been dissatisfied with the president in 1973?
I don't know. There's a lot going on back in that time frame, and I think a lot of choices, a lot a lot of voices, a lot of dissidents.
Yeah, some guy in office named Tricky Dick.
Yeah. Impeached? Yeah.
So Tricky Dick Nixon is president. Not super popular. Vietnam War is happening. I don't think people are super thrilled with that. And maybe a little bit of racial strife happening in the country.
Just a tad. There was a lot of changes too in social standing, I guess, in a sense, or not social standing, but in like they did lower the age of voting, change some of the other things that were there and abouts for the younger crowd, which would definitely push this book into existence, i.e., lowering the voting age.
Right. So they lowered the voting age to what, Greg?
18.
And why?
Well, because if you've got a lot of people that are being I was going to say conscripted, but brought into the military through the draft at the age of 18 or with parental consent, you kind of want to give them a voice in those things. And they lowered the age to 18 so that they could have a voice in their political decisions that were being made, or in political decisions that were being made that would affect them moving forward.
Yeah, I think conscripted is a fair statement. I mean, if you're being drafted and you're being told that you have to do something.
Yeah, but in the United States, we don't like to say conscripted. We like to say drafted.
Yeah, I get drafted to play for a specific baseball team in a league. Drafted for the military and being told I have to go to war is a little bit different, I think.
It's a duty. It's a thing we do.
Yeah, but people were really questioning that at this time, right? Because
yeah, definitely.
They're like, why am I going to fight a war in Southeast Asia? And you have to draft me to do that. You haven't really given me a reason why we're doing this. And, we repeat history sometimes. So you'll remember, in 2001, we maybe got really excited about going to war to clean out those weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was also going back to a place in which the war had been fought and it ended several years back before that. So, and again,
I remember that war. Sergeant Slaughter turned on America and became a general for the Iraqi army, and then Hulk Hogan ended that war at WrestleMania, right? Or was it Macho Man?
It might have been both of them.
Or was it the Ultimate Warrior?
It could have been all three. I don't know. Maybe Sarge could chime in and let us know and remind us what happened.
And the Iron Sheik all of a sudden became Iraqi.
Yes.
That was interesting.
Yes.
Considering Iran and Iraq are such great friends, it made sense. But anyway, yeah, so throughout American history, we've gotten into some wars, especially since Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And some would say the Korean War, right? Mm-hmm, that maybe we didn't belong in. Or, historically we look back. And if you look right now, obviously, the outgoing president, I think we can safely say at this point, promised to get us out of a lot of these wars, but we still have presence in a lot of places that started under George Bush. Mm-hmm. That'd be George W. Bush. Of course, George H.W. Bush had the first Gulf War. Correct. So there's some consistency there as well. And right now, they were in a war in Vietnam that seemed to be endless, and they couldn't really figure out how to get out of it. So when exactly did the Vietnam War end?
When did it end? I want to say around the same time as this book came out, technically speaking, ish.
Yeah, it's actually 2 years later, almost,
2 years later,
a year and a half. Yeah, April 30th, 1975 was the official end of the Vietnam War.
Because I know my dad got drafted in 73. I know he went through boot camp and he was put into service, into full active service, Vietnam era, and never went in country during the time. He ended up staying, doing missile silos. But
Yeah. And it looks like, yeah, I'm just going to looking, the very important history.com source from the History Channel says that the last few Americans still in South Vietnam were airlifted from the country as Saigon fell to communist forces on April 30th, 1975.
okay. So yeah,
So,
I'm very timely for 18-year-olds to want to have maybe a hero, if you will, to be their voice.
and maybe, just maybe, younger generations in the country in 1973 were fed up with old establishment leaders who continued to do the same thing.
Over and over again. Yes.
And in these unprecedented times of 1973, people were protesting and the police were being used to clear them from the streets, because police being used to clear people from the streets is unprecedented, right?
Very so.
Never happened.
No, never. We've never seen this ever.
Yeah,
Ever.
it just suddenly started in 2020, right?
Yeah. No. Yep.
And so I don't want to end on a down note, but I think the part of the reason Greg and I picked these books was because they're timely in the sense of their untimeliness. I mean, they're ancient books, and they approach some of this stuff in incredibly crazy, wacky ways. But to Greg's point, they were trying to appeal to, I think, Greg, it was probably more the 12 to like 16-year-old who wanted to look up to somebody because they're looking at their future, seeing themselves potentially going to Vietnam, right?
Oh yeah.
Or had a brother like lost in the war, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, like they're looking for change and they want something different. I think these books also, though, you're going to, as we go through them, they really serve as they try to serve as an escape.
Yeah. They serve as a little bit of an escapism, but also they have a nice foothold in some sort of sense of reality, if you will. It's a little see it if you see it, you can be it kind of framework. So by giving those kids, those 12 to 16-year-olds, a hope for a positive ability to make a change later in life, then they can be that change, right? So giving them that thing to look up to. Hey, an 18-year-old kid can be president? What?
Yeah, and I think too, and if you look at Joe Simon's career, I'm not going to focus a ton on it, but this theme fits with some of the things that he'd done in the past. So I mentioned the Boy Commandos. Him and Jack Kirby also created the Newsboy Legion in the Golden Age. And so this idea of kids serving in these adult-like roles, or kids being thrust into these more adult environments, that's a theme that Simon drew on for his writing several times. So it sort of makes sense that he would go after that. And Greg mentioned a book as well, The Green Team, that we were joking about, which is another short run series that he wrote for DC around the time too. It was Green Team Teen Millionaires. That's where you were trying to get in there. And so, yeah, just kind of looking, sort of placing kids in more adult situations, and then comedy ensues, right? Hilarity ensues. What's going to happen next?
What can they get into? What can they get out of? But
and these
they're fun.
They're fun. Yeah, they're fun books. This book, however, was not fun for the readers, apparently, because it lasted 4 issues.
Sadly, 4 issues. There's a lot left to want to go into further. Reading this now and seeing some of the themes that they hit on, I'm like, man, this is like there's layers, right? There's things that they're touching on, and you pull away the jokes and the humor and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, dude, yeah, there's some good stuff in here. There's some definite things that are very, very well thought out, and it's like, okay, they put some really good stuff in there, and then even if you're reading it now, you can look at it and you're like, it's laughable, but it's very, very real in our own time frame.
I think one of the things they tried to do, they tried to make it I think Simon and Grandenetti tried to make it like a cartoon, like a Flintstones type cartoon, where there's stuff for an adult reading it, but there's also stuff for a kid reading it, right? And those layers are there. Yeah. I also, as we get into this, and we'll take a look, I think we should start diving into the first issue. Yeah. But Grandenetti, I think, did a really good job to, when it wasn't a serious theme, he could draw almost more of a comic-y version of the page. But when it was serious, he could actually have the depth to the page to make it a serious looking thing. Mm-hmm. And I guess one more thing before we get started. So we're going to cover 4 issues. The 5th issue was actually in something we referenced before called Canceled Comics Cavalcade. And we mentioned that when we were talking about OMAC. And that's what happened to a lot of the books that were canceled in the 70s due to the comics implosion. But I want to be clear, Prez is not part of the comics implosion. Prez was canceled well before the implosion happened. But they did use Comics Cavalcade to preserve copyrights. So they tossed trademarks, sorry. So they tossed and at the 5th issue of Prez and canceled Comics Cavalcade, but we will not be covering issue number 5. Though you can get a copy of that issue in the Prez trade paperback. Believe it or not, there is actually a Prez trade paperback.
Definitely worth the read. It's a really good issue. I kind of feel like that one tongue-in-cheek story, but definitely hits a lot of themes that we're dealing with currently.
Well, let's get into issue number 1, the origin story and the making of Prez.
Oh, because it is
dramatic. Oh, yeah.
Let's find out how.
So what's going on this front cover?
Oh,
there's a lot going on.
It's like you got some Easy Rider bikes going on the sides. You got a bunch of angry people like they're driving down the street in the Prezmobile. He's got his entourage in that car. There's a monkey that like you're gonna find out about later. But angry, it looks like there's people on the side cheering them on. But as you start to read the side notes, you're like, oh, hey, wait a minute, that's they're not happy about all of this.
They don't look very happy that an 18-year-old became the president of the United States, which that makes sense. But of course, 18-year-olds can't be president of the United States. So let's figure out what happened.
They can't be president of the United States, but they can run for seats in your local government. So,
school board.
Huh? I'm sorry, what was that, Dan?
On school boards.
And they can make their way through and get seats later on as they make their way through and learn politics
and move to Eastern Washington because they can't get elected here.
No. I mean, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it across the country, and this is not necessarily a bad thing in some places because as we hit these notes in this book, it's definitely one of those things where sometimes the change you need is the change that you get, or the change you get is the change you need. I don't know.
Well, we just elected like a 9 million-year-old president, so congratulations, us.
Hey. Sometimes the change you get is the change you need. Anyways.
That's fair. So we are looking at the first page. I would just like to point out, Greg, that you probably should enroll in the program on the front page.
Oh, yeah. I got to get my bodybuilding on.
That's Mr. Perfect physique.
It is.
It says so.
I know. And I could definitely get that body and look swole, look good, and to fit into some tight fitting spanky shorts like that, and get that Hercules 2 plan.
You can absolutely do that. I think it's really important that you go ahead and get that free information on how to build muscle.
Oh man, if only they'll send me the how-to guide. And does it come with a poster and a chart to get my biceps bigger? Because in a few short weeks, I want to be able to flex.
So. It looks like it.
Bulging biceps, and my friends will gasp in astonishment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, can you really pick up a 6-inch spike and bend it effortlessly and hand it to a buddy? Oh man, I want to.
I might be able to. Well, so we say, "Oh, say does that Star Spangled Banner yet wave?" Question mark.
Yes.
There is a lot going on these pages.
Oh yeah, they're like you said though. I mean, it's the art. These pages drip with great, like, fun stuff to see. Every page is an experience. And
I want you to take a shot every time you see a sound being described as art in this book.
God, you'd never make it through this book. If one of our listeners does that challenge, they might die. Don't do that. Please don't.
You might die on the first page.
Yeah. Oh, on the first page, it's like you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my gosh.
So Prez is racing his amazing race car.
Yeah, Prez is a race car driver. He never did come in last. He never did win a checker flag. But wait, I'm sorry, I messed that up too.
So we get to the page, and you flip the page, and it's a big splash page. This is the story of the most powerful man on earth. He is not a superhero, but a teenager who becomes the president of the United States.
Whoa!
It's not a true story, not yet. But someday it may happen, and the history books of the future may read like this story of Prez by Joe Simon and Jerry Grandenetti. So they're announcing it, and he's in the car, he's racing, and he wins the race, and his name just happens to be Prez, Prez.
Oh, yeah.
That's just a coincidence. And
Prez Richards.
He wins the race.
Wait a minute. Did you win the dog barking?
I believe I won the dog barking.
Sorry.
Well, at least my dog barks a real dog bark. So we are now getting back into this, and Prez. I shouldn't take shots at the little miniature dogs. I mean,
yeah, they're cute.
They're
defenseless. And one only has 3
right?
legs.
Oh, of course. You're going to go to the one that has 3 legs as opposed to the lead barker.
The lead barker, I know. The gremlin.
You go for sympathy there. I see how that works.
Yeah.
So Prez wins the race, and they don't know what time the race is, which I find fascinating. They're racing, and they're like, what is the winning time? And one guy's like 6 minutes and 27 seconds, and the other guy's like 5 minutes and 30 seconds. That just seems a little off.
None of the clocks work in this town.
So Prez wins, and he goes around town fixing all of the clocks.
Because the town of Steadfast needs their clocks cleaned or fixed.
Right. But we do have a bulletin. In March of 1971, the 92nd Congress of the United States ratifies the 18-year-old vote. I assume that was an amendment. And so we know how that happened, right? That was an amendment, and they ratified the amendment. Okay, cool. But somehow we now have 18-year-old presidents.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Well, you can. You can. Hey man, it's comic book logic. We're not gonna. We're not here to tear that apart, are we? Are we? No,
I don't think so.
Okay.
But we are here because the very important issue of clocks.
Yes.
And one of Prez's friend wants the clocks fixed because they don't all run at the same time.
No.
And she says, we've got the votes now. Can't we do something about the clocks? Because clearly, once you become voting age, the most important issue is whether or not the clocks in your town all operate at the same time.
Exactly. I mean, because telling the time is important. I mean, if you can't get to school on time, if you can't, no one knows what time it is, then you're never going to know. And, it bothers Prez.
So Prez, seemingly as a man of unlimited talent, goes out with his toolbox and begins fixing all of the clocks in the town.
Yeah.
And we head to chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2, the boss of Slum City.
Oh, man. And you're in Central City, USA, and it opens up and it looks like...
That's not where the Flash lives.
No, it is not. It is... Well, it could be.
It doesn't look like where the Flash lives. The Flash lives in Central City.
It alternate timeline. Mandela effect.
I feel like maybe this wasn't very good editing.
They were going for this is it. It has a this is the fun this page just jumps at sad fun to me. There's a cat that looks like Heathcliff. He's getting a fishbone.
There are all these smiley faces everywhere,
which everyone is sad in this town.
Yeah,
in Central City, which is Slum City.
Well, apparently there's some guy named Boss Smiley, and the garbage men are paying him, and
to just
Boss
dump garbage
Smiley's
anywhere.
taking their welfare checks.
Yeah, because Boss Smiley says you dump it in the river, and now he wants the welfare checks
and so they protest Boss Smiley. And this is one of the things we were talking about when you transition from page 5 to page 6.
Yeah,
page 5 looks like a sad little town. Page 6 goes to like people protesting, and they look crazed.
Oh, they are an angry mob of folks with signs. Throw the bums out. Pig, pig, pig.
Good on the coloring too. There's just a lot of yellow and purple.
It's bright.
Yeah,
it's very 70s. I love it.
And then the police start beating people up.
Yeah, they're coming in on their horses, and they got their billy clubs, and they're whacking and whacking people, and they're busting them up.
And then we get the Tea Party Republicans at the bottom of the panel. I mean, the people at the bottom of the panel, saying that's the only way to handle those punk kids, beat them up for protesting. How dare they voice their opinion?
They shouldn't be doing that.
And then they turn to their friend Boss Smiley. Boss Smiley is the meanest, most vicious man in the world, according to them.
But that's what makes him so successful. Look, boss, there's blood.
Yeah, this guy's a gem. So, to describe him, he's got it's like they took the tan version of the comedian button from Watchmen, except this was probably stole for Watchmen.
Yes.
And put it on a guy's face.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's his face. So it's just a big smiley button.
So he's a Walmart logo. So Walmart is beating up the children of the kids in the streets and wants their welfare checks.
Walmart is taking the welfare checks of people from impoverished communities.
Oh my gosh.
What? I mean, that doesn't happen.
I'm just saying what I see on the page here. And then
Greg, in these unprecedented times we live in now, this is the first time any of these bad things have ever happened.
Never have I seen this before, ever. And then, but he's a man of he's a man of reason. He says you can't clobber kids. You can't these kids. You can't hurt them. Because the ballot box.
Boss Smiley is also like 2.5 feet tall.
He's got a nice picture on his wall. What's that picture? Who's that guy with him? Historical.
To Boss Smiley from Adolf.
Oh, okay. Must be an uncle or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Is he wearing a Boogaloo flannel or a flowered shirt up there?
I think so.
Can't tell.
Maybe.
We're going to get thrown off the network for this episode, aren't we?
Probably. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, can't get much worse. So Boss Smiley has put himself everywhere.
He's reading Batgirl, though. So, I mean, he can't be that bad.
He's reading Batgirl.
Yeah, he's got an issue of Batgirl on his desk.
Ha! I totally missed that. There, right there. There's just so much going on in these panels. I mean, they are dense. If you flip to the next page, 8 and 9, it is insane. Boss Smiley's smile is everywhere. Boss Smiley's smile is sporting the Statue of Liberty. I think there are some allusions to, we mentioned Tammany Hall before in the Superman episode, and versus the Klan episode. And I think there's still a lot of allusions to gang control. This is clearly a city environment. We're looking at a lot of control here, and people are just unhappy with the political landscape.
Yeah.
It's almost as if people think the political parties ignore them and just do what they want anyway. Even say if you wanted, like, I don't know, let's say you wanted like a candidate that agreed with you and felt like maybe like, you know, no student loans are bad and that maybe people should free healthcare. And then the party just chooses somebody who thinks you should keep your insurance and doesn't want to forgive student loans. And then you make them president.
Again, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. It's almost like you feel like you're being ignored for some reason. And that there's just overwhelming happy smiley figure that is so happy that they got elected.
Are you talking about Boss Smiley?
Yeah. I don't. Again, it's unprecedented times. Nobody's ever felt this before.
No.
So, headed over to page 10. And
page 10.
Well, the day Bill told off his boss.
Yeah, they go to the big. Yes, the day Bill told off his boss, which if you follow on our
fits so well into this issue. I cannot tell you when I saw this ad. It's hilarious. It's like
it's a pretty good one. It's you got to be kidding. You and electronics.
The boss in a white shirt and black tie, like IBM outfit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is screaming at this guy in a flannel shirt, right? Or a plaid shirt.
Plaid shirt, yeah.
And then he's like, because I went to Cleveland Institute of Electronics, I'm going to leave this crummy job.
He's done stamping papers that say filed and completed because he's going to go do computer stuff in his home.
It's fine. I just think it's so the ad makes me laugh, but it's also so sad that it is in this issue.
Yes.
And its placement is worse because the placement is like
right after Boss Smiley throws one of his workers out of the window,
right?
For talking back to him,
and then you have this guy who's telling his boss off. Page 10, Boss Smiley decides that he needs to take advantage of the new voting ages, and he wants to invigorate the electorate who is under 25 that hates him, and he wants to choose a new candidate for Senate. And he has some great examples. So he says everybody needs a gimmick, or his associate says everybody needs a gimmick. And they go to Mussolini. That's
made
their
the
first
railroads.
example.
Yeah.
He made the railroads run on time.
It's a good gimmick.
I mean, I feel like Benito Mussolini may have had a few problems that they're glossing over here.
Just a few.
And then they show Gandhi sitting on railroad tracks, stopping the trains. They mention that Lincoln freed the slaves. And then he says, "These punk kids never did nothing, boss. Here's one who did.
Prez Rickard. A man of the times.
He made the clocks run on time." So they're choosing a candidate gimmick based on the fact that he fixed some clocks. All right.
Hey, I mean, if you've never been to the town of Steadfast before, it's a sight to see.
It is not Central City.
It is not.
It looks like we have now landed in
Downtown Puyallup.
I was thinking Centralia, but
oh my gosh, yeah, it does. It kind of does. It does feel like that, but
there is Sir's old his dad's clock, the jeweler clock, right there. Yeah. If you guys don't know who Sir is and you've never listened to us before, that was our debate coach, and he grew up in Centralia, and his father was a jeweler. And if you want to go look up pictures of Centralia, Washington, because I know this conversation's invigorating you on the other end of the podcast, you can see the jeweler's clock in downtown Centralia.
Yes, and if
or Chehalis. I messed that up completely. But
yes. But there's a lot of great things to do down there. So if you do go down there, you could take a stop over at one of the fine establishments like McMinimans. Hopefully they'll sponsor us. And you can stay in a room in which a bank robber stayed in.
So good news. Prez gets told that he could be a senator, and he's very excited, and he looks very smug. The art here is kind of cool. Like, I like it. It's interesting. Maybe you can help explain this technique to me, because I don't quite understand the technique. I know he's penciling and inking himself, but it's this interesting, like, Prez just kind of looks like a normal kid, and then he gets told, hey, do you want to be a senator? And he sort of gets like this really smug look on his face.
Yeah. And it's just like, it goes from normal kid to like that blown out smile of like, yeah.
I mean, he looks like a homeschool kid whose mommy just told him he got an A.
Yeah, and I find it funny that he's got a sweater already that says Prez USA.
Yeah, he just got told he's the best in his class.
Yeah.
At homeschool. Yeah.
Yeah. His house is very, very I want to say patriotic. He's got lots of patriotic things around the house.
And you too could have a smoke cloud, magic cards. Not the magic cards you're thinking of.
No, but
karate, secret spy classes, and a monster ghost.
Ugly hands, werewolf mask,
trick baseball.
Yeah, slot machine. What?
Weighted wristlets. I don't even know what that means. What are you practicing for with weighted wristlets? Well, anyway, so chapter 3, Eagle Free. Okay, Eagle Free. I do need to preface this. So in the early 1970s, this also happened in Green Lantern, Green Arrow, a few other places. DC tried to honor Native Americans. And would you say tried is a good word?
Yeah, they try to bring them into many different book series as characters, as often as the I don't want to say like a sidekick, but like you've got your A and your B character, and Free Eagle or Eagle Free is definitely the B character, the B story.
Yeah, the B character. I think the difference from earlier stereotypes is that the natives in these stories are actually smarter than the main character often.
Yeah.
Or solving different types of problems. I have, this is somewhat problematic description. You have a guy with no shirt on with really stereotypical garb. It's indistinguishable garb too. Like, it's not really linked. But you go out and they're driving down the road, and the boss, Smiley, throws out his cigar. It lights some things on fire. Free Eagle puts the fire out. And
Eagle
then
Free.
Or Eagle Free. Yeah, I'm going to mess that up a billion times. And then I think the interesting thing is Eagle Free has like a menagerie.
Oh my God. It is like it's almost as if he's like Noah and has two of everything. He's got all the animals you could ever imagine that don't make sense to have in this area, but he's got them.
Yeah, he has an elephant.
A gorilla. Is that
Some
a
monkeys.
anteater? A
It
bear?
looks like, yeah, it looks like a bear. Maybe like
Elk?
an
A zebra?
elk.
A rock monster? Oh, that's just a rock. I'm
fawn.
sorry.
A rock monster. Yeah, it's interesting because I do feel like they like have this depiction, but then it's almost like they try to make it cartoony enough to make it not offensive
Mm-hmm.
in a sense. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think if some of you are reading this, you might take a pause here, and this character will show up a little bit more, mostly in this first issue. So
Oh no, well,
no, it's here.
Which character, the rock monster or the
Eagle Free?
Eagle Free? He's like he is the Tonto to Prez's Lone Ranger.
See, and I would
story.
actually say that he's not, and
Really?
here's why. Yeah,
Okay.
because if you look at the Lone Ranger and Tonto, it uses this simplistic speaking. It's really insulting. Like, it's a really bad stereotype
This is true.
of this idea of like the quote unquote savage
Mm-hmm.
and the faithful and wise savage. You could make that argument here, but we're going to see in a second where Eagle Free, and let's go ahead and flip the page. So I want to get into that, but I do think it's different, and that's where that's where I say I think they were trying.
I agree with you that it is not that, but it is like if you were going to give somebody a slight comparison to something that they know, then that would be the thing that they know. This is definitely something different than that. You're right. I mean, Eagle Free is definitely he's a very intelligent and very as the story unfolds, you get to see he's not a mystic in any sense in that way.
Well, I think the other piece too is, as we'll see as the story goes on. I don't want to give away all of Eagle Free's roles throughout all 4 books, but you'll see Eagle Free leave. Like, he's a B character in the story, but he's not the sidekick of Prez.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's different too. In the Lone Ranger, I'm not a huge Lone Ranger history aficionado, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But you wouldn't necessarily see like Tonto go and open a business.
True.
He's
but
like
the Lone Ranger couldn't do anything
servant
without Tonto.
Yeah. That I find hugely problematic, and those depictions I find very problematic. This one, and more than problematic, I'm just call it racist, right? Like, they're racist. Tonto is racist, very racist. This I find problematic, but not to that extent. And hey, listeners, feel free to disagree with us. Just drop me a line if you think we should explore this in maybe a different way.
Yeah.
But I do see a difference between the two. So I'm going to get into this, looking at it. So they're headed to Steadfast, and they can't figure out why anybody wants to go there. And the boss is like, hey, it's the next home of the next president of the United States. They're going to go get Prez.
Oh, yeah.
To take care of some business.
Because they got business to do, and he's the man to do it. Or the young man to do it.
Oh, Prez has the most epic turtleneck.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Actually, like I would love to see somebody cosplay as Prez sometime.
I don't think I have that hair anymore. So
if
we'd have to go back in time.
Wants to blow my mind, show some pictures of you rocking a Prez USA turtleneck sweater and an awesome either like you got the awesome hair or just rock a wig, because that'd be awesome.
Wow. I am 2 for 2 on the dog tonight.
Oh yeah.
So okay, so Apparently, they're going to build a superhighway, and
Yep,
of course, the boss is funding that, right? Or
Oh, yeah.
getting all. He's not funding; he's getting all the money, right?
He's
He
getting
has
the
a
money.
government contract or something,
Yeah. It's going to
and
bring lots of money.
they just launched some dynamite, and somehow the dynamite blows up the dam.
Yep. Well, and
And
they get Prez to be the one to do it because it's a great photo op.
Right. And then they come in and there's some construction equipment and it looks like a tank, and the menagerie takes it all out.
Yes.
And they're really upset that the machines are getting ruined. So Prez says this is a weird scene, and he's got a crew of 4-foot. He's looking for an Indian with an Indian kid with a crew of 4-footed wreckers. So I assume that's his menagerie.
Yeah.
They're
Because
taking things out.
Eagle Free has come in with all those animals to wreck shop on all those machines and to stop the flooding.
But they take out Prez, and they take Prez back to Eagle Free's seemingly evil lair, and we find out
What?
that he's a scientist.
Oh my gosh. Damn it, man. I'm a scientist.
I sort of think I know which one of the two I would like to be president now.
Yeah, probably Eagle Free.
Yeah, I'm thinking that he probably would be a better president than Prez. He seems to know what he's doing.
Probably. Because he lives there with the animals.
He also teaches. You also find out he went to university and came back and did some blended culture stuff, which that I find problematic too. So let's. I just do want to mention it though.
It was the 70s, man.
It's the 70s. It's okay.
Chill.
Again, and I do want to acknowledge this too, right? For a book in 73, I know I'm looking at it in a 2020 lens.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Simon's trying to take a character and place a Native American in a positive light in a book, right? Yeah. So I need to acknowledge that. It's just we've come so far with like the idea of how we depict things, and I doubt Joe Simon. I could be wrong, right? But I doubt Joe Simon like went to a tribe and was like, "Hey, if I was gonna have some Grandenetti, my artist, draw something based on your tribe. What would you want it to be, and how would you depict that, right? And how would you move forward?" So it's sort of the indistinguishable nature of it that I have a problem with, right? It's like,
yeah, I think what he was trying to do is make it so it was that Eagle Free was more. He had a look and feel that anyone of native heritage could look at and say, "Oh, okay, there's a familiarity there, and there's so much going on in his lair, in his cave, with all the different things and artifacts that he has, that they come from all the different tribes. So it's indistinguishable. So because he studied all these things of the ancestors, so there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Eagle Free has taken the time to learn of all these things, or tried to, in his short time on this earth. And I think that when probably what they were doing was making it again accessible.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll go with smashing every native culture in the United States into one as that. Great.
I'm trying to be positive here.
I know you're trying to be positive. I think it's important to talk about this stuff though too, right?
No, I understand.
The book's addressing like rioting and intersectionality and hurting the poor and having an established order siphon money off everyone else, and protests, and we got all that going on, and we have this, and they're trying, but they're not succeeding.
Well, like we talked about before in other podcasts and other episodes, where you didn't have people doing the research, like you just said, they weren't doing the research like we do now, and you got a lot of creative teams that do that. They do the footwork, or their editors do that, or make sure that they're in line with those things, and they have a lot of people making sure that the story is correct, and that things don't do exactly this, right? So we've learned from the past to make a better present.
Yep. All right, getting back in. So Eagle Free convinces Prez to help him and turn on the boss. And
teaches
so
him the ways
we
of the woods, of the forest.
get a situation, and they decide to go sneak in and sneak up and steal some files from the boss.
Yep. They get in there.
They get
do some
him,
things.
and they, of course, are incompetent and get caught.
Well, they're young.
They were trying. They had a plan.
It didn't go right. Boss Smiley and his crew got him.
And then Prez tells him, "Boss, I'm going to get you. You won't even be able to fix a traffic ticket." And Boss is like, "You'll never have a chance. I'm renouncing you. I'll get a new candidate, someone smart who will take orders." Because that's what smart people do.
But it's too late. It's election day.
Because the clock is ringing, and you know who fixed the clocks.
That's right. See? Prez.
And now Prez goes and votes.
And
in
all
a voting
the young
booth
voters
without a mask.
Yep. Well, because all the young voters go out and vote. They turn out like no one's ever seen a turnout before, because the political machine.
They were motivated.
Yeah.
They got their Twitter threads going, and Facebook, their TikTok.
It's 1973, Dan. There's no Twitter. There's no TikTok.
Oh, how did they know to vote if TikTok and Twitter didn't tell them?
The clock. The only TikTok they knew was the clock. And it went
on
bong, 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 bong.
Evening news. Bom, 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 bom. That?
Yes, Dan Rather. He told them, go vote.
Walter Cronkite?
Oh, Walter Cronkite. Sorry.
Dan Rather might be that old. I'd have to look.
No. I think Walter Cronkite and then Dan Rather was like probably 10 years later.
No, Dan Rather...
He was
definitely... Dan Rather definitely did stuff in the 80s. But I think he was doing stuff in the 70s.
He might have been. He probably wasn't doing. He probably wasn't a seat on the news. He was probably, maybe doing editorial stuff or something like that. You're gonna look it up now. You're interested. He's got to find out. He's got to know.
I've got to know. How did you know? How do you know? I got to know.
I'd imagine. I mean, he was probably doing news and other things, but he probably wasn't.
I was 100% right. He was the evening news anchor from 1981 to 2005. So starting in the 80s. Correct. So there we go. But you were right. He was definitely doing the news before then.
Yes.
You had that dead on.
Just not on an anchor seat.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely. But he was covering the 1968 Democratic National Convention.
Hey.
So there's
he was there with all those youngins.
So now Prez is president, and they play Hail the... well, he's not president yet. He's a senator.
Yes, he's a senator.
And then he becomes the president.
Yes, because he is running on the New Flower Party ticket. Right.
The New Flower Party ticket. What do you think the New Flower Party's platform is?
Fix the clocks.
Fix the clocks. He swept into an office with a youth blitz.
I
after
don't
an
know.
undistinguished career.
That's a good question. What would the party ticket? What would their platform be?
Well, clearly the media is trying to get him out of office. Fake news. Fake news.
But he was voted in.
Well, they said he had an undistinguished career, so
Yeah.
they can't understand how he got in.
Yeah.
And I was kind of disappointed here because he talks about the next issue of his comic book here. Well,
Oh yeah.
Eagle Free. Eagle Free.
Yeah. Eagle Free.
And so Eagle Free seems to be breaking the fourth wall a little bit.
A little bit.
And Prez tells us that we will never guess who the vice president will be. And I would never guess because in looking at this photo, I thought that Eagle Free was the vice president.
I would have thought so too, but I mean, he says like before that in the panel prior, he's like a lot of things, including Eagle Free as the FBI chief, right? And you as my vice president. But
Okay.
we don't know who the vice president is. Could it be the monkey behind the chair?
Could it be that mystery figure talking to them?
It could be.
Could it be the clock?
We don't know. We won't know until issue number 2.
But you receive astoundingly real tanks actually exploding and a tank trap for only $1.69.
Oh,
and
man,
a bunch of
awesome.
fighting ships.
That's pretty good. That's a good deal.
And you can never choose a better career, even if you never went to college, because you're going to the International Correspondence Schools of Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, heck yeah, dude. Accounting, bookkeeping, business management, computer programming, executive secretary.
Is that where Michael Scott got his degree?
Probably.
And then, are you ready for your Daisy BB gun?
Yes.
Well, I don't think you are, Greg, because you left your bike outside and your parents are going to know that you aren't responsible enough for a BB gun.
Maybe you left your bike outside because your parents did know you were ready for the Daisy BB gun.
Okay, well, that finishes up issue 1 of Prez. So we now know the origin of Prez. He was swept into office after constitutional amendments made 18-year-olds eligible to vote, and he was swept in on a wave of anti-old people, a blitz of anti-old people.
Yes.
Voting. And that's going to be a wrap for episode 257, our coverage of Prez #1. And we're going to get into more issues of Prez, the teenage president, in the next couple episodes. So join us for more Funny Book Forensics next time.